What's up, everybody? My name is Jonathan Schofield. My friends call me Scofie, and you've just stumbled across the latest episode of Scofie Sessions. If this is your first time here, this is just my shameless excuse to hang out with industry professionals, friends of mine, peers and colleagues, and folks that I just find plain fascinating. And today's special guest is absolutely no exception, and I'll introduce him here momentarily. Before we get to that, though, today's episode is highly relevant to you if you are an IT service provider, an MSP business owner, you're responsible for operations or the service desk at your IT business, right? And if the stuff that keeps you up at night is related to scalability, to operations, to growth, to the destiny of the venture or business of which you are a part of. If that sounds like you in your IT/MSP business, then I'm so glad you're here because we're going to have some fun and discuss some stuff that I think you're going to find highly relevant. The topic for today is operations. Proactive is greater than reactive, chasing growth instead of your tail. And now, without further ado, our special guest today is Matt of Mizo. Matt, go ahead and take a second to introduce yourself to our audience.
Thanks, Jonathan, and hi, everyone. Matt from Mizo. I got a background in anything operations, so I've been in operation roles in different kind of companies. And lately, my focus has been on MSPs, obviously. So I've been an MSP operator. I love operation and I love efficiency. So I'm all about how can we make the best team and the best company succeed. So happy to be here and happy to have that conversation today.
So when you say you've been an MSP operator, what does that mean?
Yeah, so I haven't been from the 0 to 1 MSP. I've been hired as a COO for an MSP when I think they were 10 employees, so already in that scaling phase. And we brought that up when I left to over 35. So what I've been doing in that part is just handling operation, making sure we optimize things and get the most out of our team. So that has been a lot into improving processes, but also including technology and deploying technology that's the best for us. So that's my background in the MSP. I've been doing in that part tickets, project. I've been doing quite a lot, and I love dog fooding. So just doing the work myself and trying to figure out what's the problem in it and how that works. So that's background.
So this is obviously why I believe you're doing a lot of the stuff that you're doing today because of the background that led you here. Also, why our topic for today is kind of born out of what it sounds like personal experience. I'm curious, when you started working with that MSP that had about 10 employees and you saw it grow, at the end of year one, what were some of the big observations you made as like some of the things from an operational perspective that were obstacles holding your MSP back from scalability and growth?
Yeah, I feel like, and that's the case for any companies. And I feel like the biggest challenge we had was alignment, or just making sure we work on the problems and not in the problems. Like when we joined, we were a great team, and I mean, so much talent, so much good people. But there wasn't this focus on how can we do things better. And I feel like that's the case in any business. You're so busy, you have new customers coming in, you have requests coming in after hours, whatever, and then you're just stuck there and doing the work. I feel like what changed and what we really came to accomplish and that worked well for us was just establishing this process of working on the business and taking time out of our busy schedule. It wasn't hard. It wasn't easy at first, but just making sure we had that weekly schedule where we sort of regrouped all leaders together and said, okay, so what's going on? What's our biggest problem right now? And how can we fix it forever? And not just for the next week, just say like, oh yeah, we got a temporary fix, but how do we make sure like in 3 months from now, we're tackling a different problem. That problem's solved. And now we have new problems to tackle. And it's just great new problems. So I feel like that was the alignment we were missing at first, or that was a cadence we were missing, basically.
So much good stuff there. And I've got some questions related to that, but I want to speak to our audience for a second. So if you are watching us on LinkedIn or YouTube right now, or if you're watching the recording back later, Matt just made a comment. in his personal experience in the MSP he worked with, alignment was the number one reason he identified early on, or I should say, a lack of alignment was the thing that was holding them back from scalability and growth in their IT services business. I'd be curious for anyone watching right now, would you echo Matt's sentiment? How often is a lack of alignment the reason you feel you're being derailed or held back from your goals and objectives? Don't be shy. Let us know in the comments. Is it something else? Is there something else holding you back from your growth and scalability? And maybe operations and alignment is not the thing. We want to know your perspective. So please share. What I'm hearing, Matt, was in that journey, okay, you identified in the first year that we need better alignment. We've got a great team. We've got great people that are really highly skilled, and that's not the issue, but we're not necessarily aligned. You referred to a weekly meeting that you guys started to have. So talk to me about that meeting. When did you decide you needed to have this meeting, and what was the initial format for how you structured that meeting? Who was involved? And then how did it change over the years? Because surely it didn't stay the same.
Yeah, definitely. So I think the initial realization is we had was that everybody has their focus in the business. I'm the sales guy. I want to sell, and I want to bring clients in, and I want to bring as many clients in as I can, and I'll take probably any client if I can. And then you're the operation guy, and your focus is having great customer service, great quality, and making sure like that you have the best services out there. And then you're the CEO or the financial guy, and then your focus is about creating the best margin or the best the best financial efficiency. So I think what we saw at first was that we were all aiming for sort of the same round goals, but nobody was actually naming those objectives and working on them. So in our previous business, we were about 80 employees when we implemented Traction. It's a well-known EOS or Traction. So it's a really great framework for any companies like trying to kickstart that journey. And it prescribes some meetings, and that's what they call the L10 meetings, level 10 meetings. And it's a weekly meeting cadence where you have what they call rocks, and these are basically your bigger objective. And this meeting is really set in a format with an agenda that's really strict, but it forces you to focus on what's important. So we implemented basically that EOS system just for our first initial team for that, which we call the first direction team, or like let's say executive team. So that was for us first the person responsible for sales. I was for us the person responsible for finances, operations, and then since we had a focus that year and we wanted to grow more into innovation, we had a person for professional services that included AI. So ChatGPT was out, and we know there was something to do there. So we took the first 4 people we thought were the best place for that, and we just gathered everybody in the same room and started working on that. So that was the first process, and I think it worked really well at first. It was a few months to just get the cadence and what are our rocks right now? What are we working on actually? And not just like, yeah, I got this customer and that person's unhappy. Like, yeah, that's a great problem, but is it our greatest problem right now? Probably not. Like, so I think it took probably 6 months just making sure we could focus on the greatest issue, like in the most important one, and not the most urgent ones. But that was a good journey, and I think what made the difference was just getting the cadence right, and every week just making sure we do it. Like most people will tell you, yeah, it's the same thing as last week, but yeah, it's probably the same thing as last week. But if the problem is not solved, it's still relevant now, and we need to solve it. Just not addressing it won't solve it, So
I'm a big fan of EOS. I'm a big fan of Traction, and I'm not like a licensed Traction guy or anything, but I follow similar frameworks in my own business. And with some of my consulting clients, I help them implement similar operating systems. And I think the biggest value from an operations standpoint is what you said. It forces you to confront those obstacles that are holding you back. And I think first it forces you to identify what those things are. So you described the status quo when you first came into that MSP as being, there's a lot of sharp people here, a lot of great talent, but there's maybe a lack of alignment, and we're taking clients from all over the place. And there's not necessarily defined processes and procedures for how we conduct ourselves as an organization operationally. And we needed something. So having a framework, whatever that framework might be, where you meet with your leadership team consistently and you force out into the middle of the room, here's the ugliness in the business, and here's the stuff we love, and here's where we want to go. That kind of alignment is absolutely critical. And then you're right, yeah, week to week, there may not be tons of change in that, but that in and of itself is a key indicator of something, right? Why has nothing changed? How long are we okay with things not changing? We said these things are important to us. Are they really? Because if they're really that important to us, why are we not giving them the attention and the focus they need for that needle to move? So I love that was a big part of your solution. We have a comment from Steve here. Alignment in what way? Great question. Take a crack at it, Matt.
Yeah, I think it's alignment is I think it's like always the elephant in the room, and like you mentioned, everybody was well intentioned and we all had the same goal. But you know, when I mean we want to be the best company at that. What does that mean? So EOS or that framework forces you to define those rocks or those milestones, those objectives. EOS is like does like that 10-year goal, 3-year goal, and yearly goals. So just setting that point there and naming that alignment, like that year, that's what we want. Next year, we want to be that company, like that number of customers, that kind of services we want to roll out. We want to be able to onboard 3 customers per month. We want to be the best in our field, let's say for AI or AI implementation for our customers. Just naming those points puts the target at the right place. And I think often what we do as companies is like we all talk together and yeah, it's great. I mean, yeah, we want to be the best, but everybody has a different definition of what it is. So just naming things and making them crystal clear and repeating them every week is what alignment is about for me. It's making sure we see the same target. And I'm talking about, and I love that that analogy with pizza. So we're all seeing the same pizza. I'm not talking about a pepperoni pizza and you want a vegetarian. Like it's all pizzas. But yeah, we want the same pepperoni pizza, extra cheese, and that's what we're gonna have in a year, and not just a random pizza. So.
That's a really, really great analogy, right? We all talk about pizza, but alignment means we've agreed what the pizza should look like, what it should taste like, what it consists of, when we're getting it, how we're going to get it, what we're going to spend on it. Those all could be elements that flow into alignment. Another analogy, Steve, I would yeah, I don't know, for anyone who loves music, this is something that helps me out. Okay. I don't know. Can you hear me, Matt?
Yeah, I can. It works then. Yeah.
Sorry, everybody, but my laptop just decided to die and restart randomly. So the joys of doing live streams. Sorry about that, my folks. All right. I don't know if we lost everybody. It appears that we are still live. We're on my cell phone now. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. May the internet gods be kind. I was going down the analogy from a musical perspective. And Steve, yes, Steve, we did lose John briefly. I'm back. I see your comment there on LinkedIn. No, I'm back. I'm back. Hopefully. But the music analogy in terms of alignment. Yeah, yeah, I see the comment. We're back. Hooray. Yes. Um, okay. So one way to identify what alignment looks like is first to identify what a lack of alignment is. Okay. So in music, if you're playing an instrument or if you're hearing somebody playing an instrument that is out of tune, okay, there is a dissonance that is unpleasant, right? I think of guitar specifically, right? You've got six strings on a steel guitar, and when there's misalignment, they're not in tune with each other. It doesn't sound good. It can actually be physically, audibly painful to listen to. So one way to identify if your MSP is dealing with an alignment issue is where is their dissonance or dysfunction, pain in the song of your MSP, right? Where is there a lack of rhythm or like we're out of step with each other? Then you can start to understand what alignment might look like. So if you ever had to tune a guitar, right, that can be a really educating experience. When two strings are perfectly in tune with each other, right, tuned to the same note or perfectly in tune with each other, and then you have them play the same note, you can actually strike one of the strings and the other string that is in tune will reverberate without you even having to touch it. It's perfect harmony. They're perfectly in tune with each other, right? So that's one way you can triage, are we dealing with an alignment issue? Do we have harmony in the business? Are we in tune with each other? Or is there friction, operational dysfunction? Are these certain areas in the business particularly painful or not? What do you think of that analogy, Matt?
Yeah, I think I like it, and I think it makes complete sense. And I feel like it's often like counterintuitive. And you say like whenever, and we're humans, we tend to want to go fast and work on on what's important, on what's urgent for us. But I mean, alignment for me, and that's probably been one of my what people remember me for. But it's just asking many times over, is that what you understand of that problem? And one great example was we set up on a goal to have 1 million more in revenue that year for MSP. And I was like, hey, yeah, everybody's like, hey, yeah, great goal. That's amazing. Like, and then the professional service guy said, yeah, that's amazing. I'm happy with that. And okay, but what does 1 million more revenue mean for us? That means like 70% managed services, 30% project. Okay, 30% projects, $300,000 in projects. We charge that much per hour. That means we have to put that much man hour. Are you going to be able to have that means 3 team member working full time from now on? Do you realize you're going to have to scale that team to 3 people working full time? It's just like making sure, like, yeah, the pizza looks nice, but what's underneath, and making sure we understand, and just going to the bottom, like, what does it really look like for us? And I feel like you mentioned with that tune, that's when people are working in tune. Like they see the pizza, but they like the cheese in the pizza. That's what's important for them. They see that the cheese is going to be Parmigiano, whatever
Yeah.
or that it's a D minor, that tune for them.
I'm curious, Steve, because you asked this question. Do you feel like okay, now Steve's all right. I was going to ask Steve to say, uh, what do you think alignment looks like in an MSP business? And now you said great goal. How? So if you're referring to perhaps the great goal of, or were you referring to his analogy of the let's get $1 million this year? How are we going to do it? Yeah, I think that's ultimately the benefit of mapping out what alignment looks like, because now you, like, so many people have the fantasy of my MSP is going to grow $1 million this year, or we're going to hit this revenue threshold. And it's a fantasy because we want to be there. We are saying we're going towards it, but what's the plan to get there? What are the bites out of the elephant that we're going to take in order to get us from status quo to where we're going? So until you have a plan that you can actually execute on, you don't really have a goal. You don't really have a rock, as they would say in EOS. You have a fantasy, right? Like everybody wants a successful business. Everybody wants the scalable MSP business that is not painful, that has alignment, that doesn't have dysfunction. But what does that look like? How do we do it? And in your question, Steve, what's the plan? All right. Now, believe it or not, we're actually coming towards the end of our time, and I know the internet gods stole a little bit from us, so sorry about that again. I want to transition here a little bit. So you shared with us, Matt, your experience in the first year. You one of the ways you addressed the operational lack of alignment was a weekly leadership meeting where you would identify these goals, put them into action, and hold each other accountable to it. Now that you are wearing a different hat, right? You are running the ship over at Mitso, and I want us to have some time towards the end here to learn a little bit about what you're doing specifically there. But you talk to MSP owners all the time now, right? Not just as a former MSP leader yourself, but you're talking to others in the space. Alignment, that's one of the big ones. What else are you seeing relating to operations in our industry? What are the stuff that it makes your skin crawl when you see it? You're like, ugh, oh man, I wish I didn't see that, or I wish I could change that for you.
I think what our biggest realization was is just the sheer amount of time we take service desk technicians and just coordination and low value tasks and non-technical tasks. And I mean that was one of my first realization that there's definitely a problem there. We have so many people working on that same problem or same kind of problems, and then when you see like your service desk is not performing enough, you add another person there and then second person, and you're not having that much throughput. Just everybody does more work. There's just more work created, but not more capacity. So I think that's one of the things that makes my skin crawl is how much of these high skilled engineers and even level one or level two that can do real meaningful work for customers are just using their day to coordinate tasks like reminders, sending booking links, calling customers and not reaching them out, sending questions over by email, or just like documenting in tickets, renaming, just like those very low value tasks. That's what makes my skin crawl, and it's actually not well using those people, and those people, they're the best at solving tickets and not building customer relationship. They have no value actually doing those tasks. So that was the first goal or the first problem we try to solve with Miso, is just making that team a super team. And there's a Jarvis and Iron Man, or having your assistant there doing all the low value tasks so you can focus on what's meaningful for your customers. So that's the kind of idea we had in mind. So that's what makes my skin crawl at the time.
So an analogy comes to mind. It's almost like if you had a dump truck and you were using your dump truck to pick up your groceries, right? Like, can a dump truck be used to pick up your groceries? Yeah. Is that the ultimate value of that dump truck? And you got these high value resources in your MSP, and you're diverting a lot of their valuable energy towards things that could be automated, towards things that would free up their time to be used for what they are most valuable. And I think all business owners and business leaders suffer from this, even individually, as we're finding ourselves wearing multiple hats and having to be spread very, very thin, especially in service-based businesses where escalations are flowing up to the CEO when they maybe shouldn't always have to, and you're getting drugged into support tickets that you shouldn't have to. And part of it is likely because some of these opportunities for value distribution are not being really well utilized, right? You got these really high value resources that are getting drug into basic stuff that could be automated, could be done. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree, and I think that's one of the main problem in any industry, but MSPs mostly. And I mean, there's so many. You look at your regular MSP, you use 20, 30, 40 tools on a daily basis, like you're using, or I would say wasting so much time like navigating between all this. And for us, and as an MSP and as Miso right now, we see the value of technicians and building relationship, being those customer facing, building relationship with MSPs and users, but also making sure that the right steps are being taken care of for that problem or that service request. They're not into executing those steps. They're doing about the higher level stuff that really needs a human to be done. So completely agree. You have to have the right tool for the task, and there's better tools than humans for doing very low value tasks.
Yeah, 100%. What would your response be to someone who's a little nervous about frontline tasks that require customer interaction being handed off to AI or automation in lieu of a human, that they're maybe afraid of that human connection point being lost or degraded as a result of automation? And what effect will that have on the customer experience?
I think that's a completely valid point. And if you look at it, if you look at Miso as your digital employees, like you wouldn't have a new employee coming in tomorrow and just getting them, giving them the keys to whatever, and your Hoodoo or IT glue passwords everywhere and just run with it and work through it. I feel like the value should be earned and the trust should be earned. So there is definitely a risk to detrimental customer relationships. That's why we want to take care of tasks that are as much as possible in coordination and not as customer relationship. There's a lot of tasks that are done through email right now in an MSP setup. And like you're calling somebody, you can't reach that person, you'll send a follow-up email with probably a booking link or time zest or whatever, just asking that person for a meeting so you can fix her
Yeah,
problem or you can work on that service request. That's something that you can do as a human, but definitely that doesn't have much value to it. So the way you should work through it is build that relationship and build that confidence with your AI copilot or with Miso, and just making sure that, yeah, I would have done that. Miso does exactly the same thing. That's how you build that trust. And that's how you build that trust as any manager. Like that person's taking care of the tickets like I want it to be. And it's trained how my organization works. So it's the same thing with any, I would say, digital labor or AI agent there.
got you. No, that's a really good point. So it sounds like there's quite a bit of effort that goes on to the front end of implementing these types of tools and solutions to ensure that the right use case is being baked in. Sounds, am I right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we try to automate it as much as possible. So, in the technical way, if I talk about Miso, I think it should be as automated as possible. But it's definitely like it's always that it's trust but verify, and we have to build that trust with our customers. So that's our goal as a company. That's our mission. But you can look at what we're doing, and you should be able to look at what your AI agent is doing, being able to validate, is that the right action, and be able to take corrective measures. And I wouldn't say fire that agent, but try to to improve its learning so it works in the right ways for your company and how you serve your customers.
All right, so now as we wrap up, I just want to kind of summarize the journey we've gone on today's episode of Scofie Sessions. Number one, the status quo that a lot of IT providers find themselves in is being really reactive from an operation standpoint, and it's kind of like they're held hostage by their business and their customers because they're always chasing that next fire to put it out, and they're getting involved in escalations, and their team is spread 6 ways from Sunday doing low value tasks, and they're not optimized and they're not aligned. So what I'm hearing, Matt, is step one is kind of more of an existential measure that you need to figure out as a business owner, business leader, where it is your MSP is trying to go. And one of the best ways to do that would be to get your leadership on a weekly operational cadence call where you're mapping out, writing down those things that are most important to you, where you seek to be, and then begin to map out a plan to get from here to there. I think a critical piece of that is to distribute responsibility and build a culture of accountability and positivity into that weekly level 10, whatever you want to call it, and move yourself towards that goal. And then the next piece is to identify opportunities for your high value assets in the business, people, to be most optimized to do the things they are best suited to do. And a big component of that is going to be able to identify those low level menial tasks that could be automated and figure out ways for augmenting your staff so that they can be the most effective. Would you say that's a good summary, Matt, of the journey we've gone on so far?
It's actually a great summary, and I mean, I would say it's a very oversimplification of what traction is, but it's definitely the most meaningful steps. For anybody in the audience, I'm happy to delve more into it and go deeper. You can shoot me an email at matt@meso.tech or just reach out on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to talk more about that for sure. But I think it's a great summary. Thanks, John.
Okay, very good. Now, you jumped ahead a little bit. I was going to say, as we wrap up, I want you to give just a quick elevator pitch on Meso as a product, and then the best way for folks to get a hold of you. We've sort of been talking about Meso as a product the last 5 minutes, but feel free to just what is it? Who should care about it? Why should they reach out to you? And how should they reach out to you, Matt?
Yeah, definitely. So Meso is an AI agent for your MSP service desk. So we're all about making your team do more with less, making your team more efficient, replacing your triage, your dispatch, but also augmenting your engineer with your copilot directly in their PSA. So think of Meso as your sidekick or your digital labor, and we're taking more and more space so your team can focus on what matters and putting your agents on the tasks that are high value for your organization. Best way to reach out, as I mentioned, matt@meso.tech, shoot me an email or reach out on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer, jump on a call. I'll be more than happy to do it.
Fantastic. Matt, it has been a sincere pleasure having you as our special guest today. And if you're watching this video back on LinkedIn or YouTube later in the future, comment and say hi. Let us know if this was valuable to you and what you'd like to see us discuss next time. I'm going to end the stream here momentarily. There'll be a short outro video that plays and a couple other ways that you can consume this content, and other places you can follow us. If there's other places that you're more active, we kind of share this at a lot of different places. So we want to make this accessible to you where you are. And for those of you who don't know, I'm Scofie. I'm the cyber matchmaker. I help MSPs find new customers, and I help SMBs find their forever partner. And I help vendors get connected to service providers. So reach out for whatever you might need. And Matt, once again, thank you so much for being here, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Sound good?
Yeah, thanks to you, Jonathan.
All right, be well, everybody.